In this lesson, you will gain a better understanding of the components that are in an academic argument. You will also learn how you can analyze an academic argument to determine whether or not it is effective. Academic arguments are evidence-based defenses of a position on a complex issue. It is not simply having a difference of opinions. It is important to practice your skills of analyzing others' arguments, because it can lead to you improving your skills with critical thinking, reasoning, and weighing evidence. These will be the skills you need when it is time for you to develop your own academic argument. When first looking at an academic argument, get a first impression. Ask yourself the following questions. Who seems to be the intended audience, and how do you know? What's the topic of the argument, and how much do you know about it? Who's the writer, and what do you know about him or her? Once you have established the topic and who the writer and intended audience are, look more closely at the argument itself. An academic argument consists of the following: a claim, evidence to support the claim, and reasoning that addresses how the evidence supports a claim. The claim in an academic argument asserts a belief or truth a writer is conveying and advancing through an argument. It lets an audience know what a writer's position is on a topic, and it is debatable or controversial. To identify a writer's claim, ask, what is the writer's point in the argument? In arguments, claims require supporting evidence. The rest of the argument should provide the reasoning and evidence that have led the writer to believe that his or her position is the best. Take a look at these sample claims. As you read each claim, think about what language the writer uses to assert his or her position. In the first example, the writer writes, should enact legislation, to signal the position being argued. In the next example, the writer uses, can help to show the position about reflective writing. Next, the writer uses should again, to signal to readers the claim regarding NASA. And in the final example, the writer has chosen to use most responsible, to let readers know what his or her claim is regarding veganism. These are some examples of how writers may write a claim, but there are many other ways to introduce a claim. Pause the video and read the following paragraph to yourself to identify where the writer's claim is. Did you find the writer's claim? It's the last sentence. As a society, we need to be more aware of this terrible problem and address this issue before it gets worse. What signaled to you this was the claim? Maybe it was the use of need to be more aware and address this issue. As you read and listen to academic arguments, be on the lookout for these signals that let you know what a writer's claim is. You will eventually write your own claims, and you will get to practice using these signal words to let your audience know what your claim is. To support a claim, a writer needs to include support, often in the form of evidence or examples. There are several types of evidence or examples that one can use to support a claim. It is through the support where you will see some of a writer's use of rhetorical strategies. The strength of the support can make or break an argument, and it is up to a reader to closely look at the support and the kind of support used to determine an argument's effectiveness. A writer should use evidence and examples he or she thinks will be the most relevant to the topic and will work the best at convincing his or her intended audience. If a writer's claim is, putting the student seating area closer to the basketball court will raise player performance, which of the following would be more relevant evidence to support this claim? Which did you choose? If you chose information about how fan support raises player morale, which then results in better play, then you chose the support that is more relevant to the claim. Take a look at this paragraph again. Pause the video to identify the support the writer uses to support the claim. What did you identify? You may have seen these sentences as an example the writer used. Here, the writer has chosen to use pathos to appeal to readers and to advance the claim about the need to be more aware and address the issue. The writer uses pathos by providing details of a skinny, cold, and weak dog. Did you picture the poor dog and feel sorry for it? What did the writer do to make this happen? Did you think about the word choice used that may have appealed to your emotions? This is what the writer chose to do to appeal to your emotions and try to make you feel sorry for the dog. If you felt it, then you may consider this rhetorical strategy to be effective. What we just did is start to analyze this academic argument. Did you see any other support in this paragraph? Here are a couple more types of support the writer included. First, the writer uses logos when including evidence from the Humane Society of the United States. Then, the writer appeals to ethos by referring to his or her own experience. Is the support relevant for the claimant audience? Do the rhetorical strategies used seem appropriate for the argument? Why do you think the writer chose to use these strategies? Was the support convincing to you? Why? These are some questions you should ask yourself when determining the effectiveness of the support. You have already learned about the rhetorical appeals, pathos, logos, and ethos. Let's take a closer look at how a writer may use each. This will help you in your analysis of a writer's rhetoric. When identifying what a writer has used pathos in an academic argument, consider how the writer has used pathos. Has the writer given a personal testimony, which is when the writer describes an event they have directly experienced? When a writer does this, he or she likely intends the personal testimony to be representative of a general tendency. When you see a personal testimony, ask yourself, is it effective at representing a general tendency? A writer may also include an illustrative anecdote, which is when the writer provides stories about other people. When you see this, ask yourself, is the anecdote effective at appealing to the audience's emotions? Which emotions does it seem to evoke? A writer may also include emotion-laden words and phrases. Remember, this is when the writer has chosen to use connotative meanings. If you see this, ask yourself, is the word choice appropriate for the audience? What emotions do the words evoke? Does the use of emotion-laden words appeal to you? How? You may also see a writer use descriptions when using pathos. You saw this in the example you looked at earlier in this video. To determine the effectiveness, ask yourself similar questions as mentioned before. Is the description appropriate for the audience? What emotions does the description evoke? Does the use of the description appeal to you? How? When a writer uses the rhetorical appeal pathos, it also provides you information about the audience. Ask yourself, what does the use of pathos tell you about the intended audience? How does the writer use pathos to appeal to the intended audience? How does the writer manipulate language through the use of pathos to appeal to the intended audience? Similarly, when identifying a writer has used logos in an academic argument, consider how the writer has used logos. Is the writer comparing or contrasting to show the good or bad of a topic, in order to change the way the audience sees one of the items that is being compared? Ask yourself, is the comparison or contrast effective at convincing the audience of the claim? A writer may also use concrete, detailed examples or statistics to support a claim. To determine if this particular strategy is effective, ask yourself, are the examples or statistics relevant? Are the sources credible? Writers may also appeal to logos by including the denotative meanings of words, the definitions. Writers do this to clarify meanings. If a writer does this, think about, why has the writer included a definition? What does this tell you about the audience? When a writer uses the rhetorical appeal logos, it provides you more information and more facts about the topic. When a writer uses logos, ask, what did I learn about the topic? Was the information important for me? When writers use ethos, consider the following to determine how ethos is used and whether or not the use of the rhetorical strategy is effective. A writer may refer to their own knowledge or experience. If a writer does this, ask, is the information relevant in advancing the writer's claim? Does it make the writer more credible for the particular argument he or she is making? A writer may appeal to an authority by quoting an expert or citing information from a credible source. Ask, does the source seem credible for the particular topic? Does including the information help to convince me of the writer's claim? How? A writer may appeal to ethos by referring to the opposition. The writer may do this to grant validity to and demonstrate respect for the opposition. This also shows that a writer has considered different perspectives, which can increase a writer's credibility. When you notice a writer doing this, ask yourself, was the writer clear and fair when listing the opposition, or was the opposition insulted and diminished? What does it show you about the writer's credibility? When a writer uses the rhetorical appeal ethos, it provides you more information about the writer. When a writer uses ethos, ask yourself, what did I learn about the writer? Does this information help to make the writer more credible and help me to want to agree with the claim? The last part of an academic argument this lesson will address is the argument's reasoning. Writers provide reasoning through statements that expand on the writer's claim and establish a logical connection between the claim and the supporting evidence. It is the responsibility of the writer to explain and convince his or her audience of how the evidence supports the claim. The audience should not have to make this connection on their own. It is important that a writer includes reasoning and does not rely on the support to make the argument. To help you in determining the effectiveness of an argument, ask yourself, does the writer include ample reasoning? Does the reasoning relevantly connect the claim to support? Was the reasoning convincing to you? When considering the effectiveness of an argument, you should consider all questions presented throughout this lesson, as well as the following. Is the claim clear? Is the support relevant for the claim and the audience? Are the rhetorical strategies used appropriate for the claim and audience? How convinced are you by the writer's argument?